Yo, I want to talk about the Gothic horror plane of Innistrad, a few cards that represent that plane in their artwork, Scryfall's tagger system, and then I'm going to introduce you to a fun new game that I invented. And first up, we need to start with the website Scryfall, link in the description. Real quick for the uninitiated, Scryfall is a really good database and search engine specifically for Magic the Gathering cards. Say you want to search for all the cards printed in the set Dragons of Tarkir. You can do that. Maybe you want to see all the cards that are legal to play in your white-blue commander deck. You can do that. Say you just want badgers. You want to look for badgers? You can do that. Did you know there are 7 creature cards with the badger subtype in the game? Thanks to Scryfall, you do now. And look, that one's a dinosaur. And this one is called a badger, but was first printed only as a beast because the badger subtype didn't exist yet. So it's had to have its text updated in errata to include it being a badger, even though it's not been reprinted with the correct text. It's a stealth badger that you need an internet connection for to be able to correctly know what kind of creature types it actually has. Isn't that fun? Magic the Gathering is an always online game. What even is that card? Rock Badger? I'm not making the joke. Okay, I'm getting sidetracked. One other fun thing that you can do with Scryfall is search by art tag. So for instance, if I type in a tag badger, suddenly now there are 12 cards rather than 7. That's because cards like Greensleeve's Maro Sorcerer aren't badgers themselves, but they depict a badger in their artwork, and thusly show up in the results when you search using the art tag badger. Instantly sidetracked again, but fun fact, Greensleeve's Maro Sorcerer is a vanity card named after head designer Mark Rosewater. Same as any Kamigawa card that ends in Maro, like these 3 for instance. Oh, and there's literally just a creature called Maro as well. I'm not sure how much of a fun fact that was. It may be the did you know Viggo Mortensen broke his foot in that one Lord of the Rings scene kind of fact that everybody just knows, but people still feel the need to tell you when it comes up. Comment below, did you already know that Mark Rosewater's name was hidden in a bunch of cards? Or was this news? God, I try to keep these videos to 10 minutes, I really do, but I just can't stay on topic apparently. There's too much stuff to talk about with this game. But hey, while we're distracted, please subscribe and check out my Patreon below. I can't keep making these videos without support, and I don't want to go anywhere. I have now seen firsthand the effect that a bunch of likes and comments have on boosting a video in the algorithm, so your engagement and support really makes all the difference. And my Patreon has some fun stuff on there too. I post blogs once a month, there are weekly opinion polls and previews, all sorts of stuff, and check it out and thanks. Anyway, Scryfall and the art tags. Now you may be wondering how the database could possibly know which cards depict a badger or whatever, and you want to know how it works. Well, let's look at Greensleeves again on Scryfall, and then scroll down a bit and we can see here, open on Scryfall Tagger. And clicking on that opens up the tagger page for the card and all of the tags that go along with it. So see here, Greensleeve's name is a tag, so we can search other cards that depict her in the art as well. The card also has the badger tag, of course, and it has more tags to do with the art depiction, like how it features green fumes and a Dutch angle. So where do these tags come from? Well, Scryfall's Tagger is a crowd-sourced tag catalogue run by, I was going to say volunteers, but you have to pay $10 to contribute, so are you still a volunteer at that point? If you've paid to do it, are you a customer by then? I'm not sure what that makes you. Either way, people can submit tags that they feel are appropriate for a card, and if it's accurate and enough people submit the same tag, it gets added, and then the card filters into a pool with other cards that share that tag as a searchable result when you look for a card using a tag on Scryfall. And it's not just artwork. If we scroll down on this page a bit, we can see that the mechanics are also tags, which might be of help when deck building. Want a card for your landfall deck? Or maybe a token deck? Or want to search for options to deal with planeswalkers? Well, Greensleeves is tagged as being an option for all of those. And if we click one, let's say we click Land Matters, it will show you all the other cards that share that tag, making it easier to search and build a deck around a certain mechanic. Like a Shire here, Soul of the Wild. Non-token creatures you control are forest lands in addition to their other types. That's fun. But back to Greensleeves and that art tag though, because what I want to show you is this tag, the Dominaria tag. Dominaria is one of Magic's many planes of existence, and Tagger tells you which plane the community says a card is depicting. Greensleeves is canonically from Dominaria, I can't disagree, so this tag makes sense. However, This whole system, whilst excellent, is still a crowdsourced effort, and not officially run by Wizards of the Coast, as far as I know. And thus, it's not perfect, or at the very least it's not official. There is wiggle room in terms of accuracy. I mean, don't get me wrong, it is very, very, very good, and I can't complain. But I think it would be interesting to take a look at a few cards and see how accurate I feel the crowd were in their crowdsourced effort to tag a card. And what better plane to do that with than Innistrad? Now, I'm not going to claim to be an authority on Innistrad. I may think I am, but I'm not going to claim it. However, listen to me when I say I love Innistrad, and I have spent many, many hours poring over the cards representing the plane. And not just the ones from the official sets. No, you think I'd make a video on the accuracy of Scryfall's Tagger if I hadn't seen some non-set cards that I wanted to talk about? So that's what I want to do here. I want to show you some cards, talk about whether they've been tagged on Scryfall as being Innistrad or not, and then give you my verdict as to whether I think the Scryfall taggers got it right. And I'll do this in a game that I'm calling Is It Innistrad? Which is probably going to become a series, because there's a lot of cards that I could be looking at here today. So, the game is simple, and to teach you the rules, let's start out by looking at a real softball of a card, a real easy one. Avacyn Guardian Angel. Now, for a card to be eligible for this game, we need to look at which set it was first printed in. And as you can see here, Avacyn Guardian Angel was first printed in M15. That's a good start. For a card to not be eligible for this game, it would need to have seen its first printed in one of the sets that we know for a fact is canonically representative of Innistrad, meaning there's likely no speculation on which plane is being depicted in the card's art. There may be exceptions to that rule, but in general, for this game, the sets that we're excluding cards from are Innistrad, Dark Ascension, Avacyn Restored, Shadows over Innistrad, Eldritch Moon, Midnight Hunt, and Crimson Vow. All sets specifically taking place on the plane of Innistrad, which, as we can see from its exclusion on that list, M15 isn't. And so Avacyn Guardian Angel is an eligible candidate for our game. Next, we need to check the card's tags to see whether the community has said that the card depicts Innistrad or not. And yep, as you can see, this one is set on Innistrad. Good work. Okay, final step. We have to look closer at the card and make our own judgment and investigate whether the community is right or not in how they've tagged it. Once that's done, I'm going to place the card into one of three categories, depending on my own personal opinion versus that of the crowdsourcing community. The first of these categories that a card could end up in once we've judged it is Scryfall says the card is from Innistrad, and I agree, as I think they've gotten it right, and I also think the card is from Innistrad. The next category is the community has either tagged a different plane or tagged no plane at all, and so therefore is saying the card isn't from Innistrad. But I disagree. I think given all of the evidence and context, we can safely, but controversially, say that the cards in this category are in fact from Innistrad. And our final category should be the opposite of the last one, but quite frankly, the community are really good at this. So if the community says that a card is from Innistrad, I can't imagine a scenario where I'm going to disagree and say that it isn't. If they say it's Innistrad, there will be evidence to prove that it's Innistrad. However, just because there's evidence doesn't mean I have to like it. There are some cards that, yeah, I guess are from Innistrad, but like, what? Why? No. There are even some cards printed from that list of official Innistrad sets that I mentioned that I don't think are properly representative of the plane. It's a gothic horror setting. Why does it have so many dragons canonically featured there? So no, our last category isn't Scryfall says yes it is Innistrad but I say no. So I guess this last category for a card once we've looked at it could be summed up as Scryfall says yes it is Innistrad and I say, huh? You'll also notice there's no Scryfall says no a card isn't from Innistrad and I also say no it isn't from Innistrad because what would even be the point of that? There's a million cards that aren't from Innistrad and would feature on that list, so yeah, anyway. Back to our first contestant for this game, Avacyn Guardian Angel. Like I said, a nice softball for us to look at, get familiar with how it works. It's got a cost of 2 and 3 white, 5 power and 4 toughness. For mechanics it has flying, vigilance and a bunch of other stuff, and the creature type Angel. So zooming into the art, Angels on Innistrad have your traditional look, humanoid, 2 white wings, etc. So this matches up. The architecture on the steeple in the background is in keeping with Innistrad's gothic aesthetic, and implies a church, which makes sense as the angel is wielding a staff adorned with the symbol of Avacyn. Iconography related to the dominant religion on Innistrad, and a symbol which is going to be a smoking gun for a lot of the cards that depict it when trying to figure out if we're looking at Innistrad or not. For example, you can see it here in Angelic Armaments, Banners Raised, and Holy Justicar, all cards canonically representative of Innistrad. Hell, it was even used as the set symbol on the cards too. So general rule of thumb, see a symbol of Avacyn, it's an Innistrad card. Oh, and if we look, there is one last clue. That's Avacyn herself, the archangel deity at the head of their church. So yeah, I think we can confidently put this card into the first category. It's tagged as Innistrad, and I agree. Okay, understand the game? Right, let's do a tricky one. Here we go. Mob, first seen in Modern Horizons. It costs 4 and a black, it's an instant, and it has Convoke and Destroy Target Creature. A fantastic card, because Convoke means you can tap creatures to help lower the cost to cast it. A literal reflection of the card's concept where a bunch of people gang up and work together to kill something. Wonderful. But is it Innistrad? Well, if we open up Scryfall's tagger, we'll see that no, Innistrad isn't listed. No plane is. So let's investigate. First off, there's a werewolf. How many planes have werewolves? Of the 77 werewolves printed in the game to date, 73 of them are canonically from Innistrad. That's a good indication for Mob's origins, but it's not a guarantee. So of the 4 remaining non-Innistrad werewolves, well, first, there's Werewolf Pack Leader. But it's from the D&D set Adventures in the Forgotten Realms, and as we not only know then that it isn't from Innistrad, but also because the D&D set is basically a Universes Beyond, which isn't part of Magic's own IP, meaning there's no way it's related to Mob, we're going to count this card out. Let's look at Lesser Werewolf from Legends, a set with strong ties to Dominaria, but is actually set in the multiverse, so could arguably be from anywhere. This one doesn't help. This doesn't narrow it down. It could be Innistrad, but it also could not be, so I'm going to count it out too. Next up we have Greater Werewolf from Homelands, a set canonically on the plane of Ulgrotha, not Innistrad. Okay, this is a contender. And finally, Treacherous Werewolf from Judgment, a set canonically on Otaria, a continent of the plane of Dominaria, another contender. Which means we have 3 planes in the running that feature werewolf cards. 1 werewolf for Dominaria, 1 werewolf for Ulgrotha, and 73 werewolves for Innistrad. Again, that's strong evidence, but it's not proof. So next up, let's look at the mob themselves. Flaming torches, pitchforks, leather boots with trousers tucked in, and one very fine hat. So aside from this cobbled street, we're not going to get much else from this image. So let's now compare that to cards featuring mobs set on each of our 3 planes. Well, Innistrad is easy. We have plenty of examples of cobbled streets, so that checks. We have similar fancy hats on people. Look at all those hats. Check. And hell, we even have the card Unruly Mob, with torches and pitchforks, talking about how they're going to gang up and kill a werewolf. I mean, this seems definitive, but let's see how the other planes stack up first before we make any final judgments. So first up, we have Mob Mentality from Visions, which is set on Dominaria. It's a mob, it's pitchforks, yes, but while Visions is set on Dominaria, it was specifically set on Jamura, not Otaria, a different location within Dominaria. And from doing some research, I couldn't find any evidence of werewolves on Jamura, so that doesn't track, we have to count that out. Looking at Otaria specifically though, where Treacherous Werewolf was from, and well, we have profane prayers and Psychotog seemingly depicting cobble streets like we saw in Mob. But look at that clothing though. It's all knight's armor and brightly coloured wizard's robes, and there's nothing even remotely similar to that dude's hat, so I think we can rule out Otaria and Dominaria entirely, as it just doesn't line up. Next, let's look at Ulgrotha. Dudes with pitchforks in Sengir Autocrat, check. Clockwork gnomes depict cobbled streets, check check. Is there a man with a fancy hat? Show me a man with a fancy hat. The card forget. Check, check, and check. So Ulgrotha and Innistrad are the 2 planes still in the running for the setting of the card Mob. Are there any other clues that we could get from the card that will help us narrow down which of the 2 it is? The flavour text is non-distinct, so doesn't help, but there are the card's mechanics. Specifically, this keyword Convoke. Convoke is a keyword first introduced in the set Ravnica City of Guilds, but since that time it's appeared on cards depicting all sorts of planes. From Zendikar in Nissa's Expedition to Kamigawa in Cut Short. Hell, it's even been on some Dominaria cards like Falaji Wayfarer, which I would have considered had we not already ruled it out. But has it ever been on a card depicting Ulgrotha? No it has not. Has it ever been on a card depicting Innistrad? Yes, 3 times. Devouring Light, depicting our smoking gun from earlier, the symbol of Avacyn. Markov Baron, depicting a vampire set in Markov Manor, on Innistrad. And Saint Traft and Rem Carolus, 2 legendary creatures from Innistrad, teamed up together on one card specifically designed to be the commander of a Convoke deck. I think that's all the evidence we need. Innistrad has werewolves, Innistrad has mobs that kill werewolves, Innistrad has the Convoke mechanic. Scryfall may not list this card as Innistrad, but for the purposes of our game, I have to put mob into the second of our categories because I disagree. Is it Innistrad? Yes. What do you think? Am I right, or is there some evidence that I've missed? I didn't look at any lore from outside of the cards. Should that make a difference? I mean, Ikoria will tell you that the lore and the cards don't always line up, so let me know what you think in the comments below. Thank you very much for watching my video, and thank you to my patrons whose names are on screen now. I'd also like to thank the sponsor of the video, me and my Patreon page, where you can get your name credited on screen too. Check it out in the link in the description below. Hit the like button, leave a comment, install an ad block, and most importantly subscribe and share this video with a friend. Hit the notification bell, and do all those things that the algorithm loves. If you agree or disagree with any of my points, or if you want me to do a video on another subject, let me know, and I will see you next time.